2 games all.
Welcome to Courtside Coffee, where we brew highly caffeinated tennis topics. I'm your host, Merlisa, and today we're diving into a topic that doesn't get enough attention. Why do so few female tennis players on the WTA Tour have female coaches? Why don't we see more women coaching women in a sport that's all about female empowerment? It's election time in the United States, and many are asking if Americans trust a woman to lead this country. Meanwhile, the WTA Finals are in Saudi Arabia, where women's rights are a hot topic. The WTA Finals feature the top female players in tennis, and none of them have female coaches. It's a strange contradiction, isn't it? Tennis is arguably one of the few sports where women earn as much as men in major tournaments, where the top players are household names, and where the WTA has been a driving force in promoting gender equality in sports. And yet, here we are in 2024 with a glaring imbalance in coaching. Most of the top players are coached by men, and very few women have broken into the upper echelon of coaching on the tour. Since the U.S. Open, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, Elena Rybakina, and Naomi Osaka all hired new coaches. None of their coaches are women. In fact, none of the players in the finals has a female coach. Why? Let's try to break this down. Why aren't more women coaching women? There's no easy answer, but a few theories have been floating around for years. Some people suggest that female players don't trust women to coach them. They believe that male coaches are better equipped to handle the intense pressure of elite competition, or that male coaches bring a more authoritative presence that players respect. Kind of sound like some of the stuff we've been hearing in the election. Is that true, though? Or is it just a symptom of a much larger systemic issue? Historically, men have dominated coaching roles, not just in tennis, but across most sports. And like in many industries, once men dominate a field, it's hard for women to break in. Players tend to hire coaches who've either been successful on the men's tour or have worked with male players. That creates a cycle where fewer women get the experience needed to coach at the highest level. This brings me to the WTA Coach Inclusion Program. Let's talk about the WTA's efforts to address this disparity. A few years ago, the WTA launched the Coach Inclusion Program, specifically designed to get more women in the coaching ranks. The idea was to support female coaches, give them the tools and opportunity to advance, and hopefully close this gender gap. But here's the kicker. Why does the WTA, which is supposed to be all about advancing women in tennis, even need a program like this? Shouldn't the path to coaching be more natural for women in sport? Well, the fact that this program exists highlights just how deep-rooted the issue is. Even in a women's sport, we still have these traditional gender dynamics at play, where men are seen as the natural leaders or authority figures. The WTA Inclusion Program is a step in the right direction, but it also exposes how ingrained these inequalities have been. Meanwhile, the men coaching these women, did they go through any special training programs? Were there any type of development for Goran Ivanisevic or Ivan Lendl, or were they just allowed to have been great at tennis and then they get to go coach these great women or even great men? On the other hand, you had one male player, Andy Murray, who entrusted a female coach, Emily Marismo. And it's crazy that we had to have a male player show some respect for a female leader. Now, I get it in terms of hitting partners. When it comes to hitting partners, you want someone to hit hard. So when you're playing, the ball is slower. I can see why they have more male hitting partners. But coaching? How does the male mind work any better than the female mind? How does a male coach understand women's tennis more than a female coach? We can't ignore the cultural and systemic factors here. For years, women's tennis has had sort of a paradoxical relationship with gender roles. Women are the stars, but the people pulling the strings behind the scenes, running the strategy, making the calls, are overwhelmingly men. Right now, the chairman of the WTA is a man. Some players might simply feel more comfortable with male coaches because that's what they've always known. If you look at someone like Serena Williams, who was coached by Patrick Mouratoglou for years, or Naomi Osaka, who had Wim Fissette, and now has Patrick, it's become the norm to see top players with male coaches. But the question remains, are these players not giving female coaches a fair chance? So what needs to change? The WTA Coach Inclusion Program is a great initiative, but it's just the beginning. We need to encourage more retired female players to consider coaching. After all, who knows the game better than the women who have competed at the highest level? But they need support, mentorship, networking, and access to the same resources as their male counterparts. Also, the players themselves need to rethink their choices. We need to create a culture where hiring a female coach isn't seen as a gamble or a novelty, but as a valid, logical choice. There's a whole untapped pool of potential female coaches out there. With the right opportunities and backing, they could start shaping the next generation of tennis stars. It's clear that change won't happen overnight. The WTA has taken some positive steps, but we need to keep pushing forward. If tennis wants to continue leading the way in women's sports, it has to fix this coaching imbalance. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Courtside Coffee. What do you think? Will we see more female coaches in the future, or is the WTA going to keep struggling with this imbalance? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to visit us at Courtside Coffee Substack for insights into tennis and coffee culture. Great recipes, great tips on coffee every week. Until next time, stay caffeinated and keep on brewing.